Good morning. These are the plums that I got from my granddad's tree. So we're going to use them today and we're going to make either some pies or we might make some jam. I'm undecided at the moment. But first things first, they need to get washed. So what we're going to do is just put them in this water, rinse them a little bit, and then put them in these bowls. They will get washed again before they're used. This is literally just rinsing off any dust or debris, mud or anything that is currently on them. Identifying any that have split because we don't want to be using those. So what we're going to do here is prepare the fruit for the little crumbles that I'm going to make. So we're going to start with apples, and I don't bother peeling the apples because I'm not overly bothered about the skins, but that is something that you can do if that was something that you would prefer. I just never do. I'm just going to core them, and then we're going to cut them into small slices and then cut them again into chunks. So once I've got the apple chunks, I'm just going to split them between these three bowls. This one's going to be for apple and blueberry. This one will be apple and blackberry. And this last one will be apple and plum. These are the blueberries I'm going to use. They are the ones that I harvested from my tree earlier today, so they're going to be nice and fresh. So from here I'm going to start pitting the plums and chopping them up too. This is why you should always cut them in half. You can see the little insects in there, so not ideal. This will go in the garden and hopefully feed some birds. Then these are the blackberries. They were harvested at my auntie's house from a tree, and I just defrosted them because they were stored frozen. Now that the fruit is prepared, what we're going to do is add a tablespoon of plain flour to each of them, as well as some cinnamon. So the amount of cinnamon really isn't that important. You can kind of add as much as you want because it's to your taste, and you can also add different spices or flavourings of whatever you prefer, whatever you like for your specific taste. Actually not going to add a tablespoon of flour to each one because they are quite small, so that will do. I really enjoy cinnamon, so I'm going to add quite a lot to each of these. I feel like cinnamon always adds a depth of flavour to everything, and it makes everything better without fail. So you're just going to mix these up. Don't worry too much about the amount of flour and cinnamon that's in there. It will all eventually kind of dissipate as the fruit cooks when it's in the oven. So there's nothing to worry about at all. It'll become nice and juicy. So be very, very tasty. You can also add some brown sugar or sugar in general at this point. That is also kind of up to you, depending on how sweet you like your crumbles. Because the fruit is quite sweet in and of itself, I probably won't add any, or if I do, it'll only be a little bit. But for now, I don't think I will. I quite like the fruit on its own, to be totally honest. So now that these are mixed, I'm going to move on to making the actual crumble. For the crumbles, what you're going to want to do is add, this is 80 grams of flour, plain flour. This is 80 grams of oats, rolled jumbo oats on this occasion, and 80 grams of butter. It's been chilled, it was in the fridge, but I've recently taken it out, so it's kind of soft, but it's obviously not completely soft. And then this is about 80 grams of brown sugar. You can reduce the amount of sugar depending on your taste again, but since I haven't added any to the fruit, it's more reasonable to add a lot more to this stage. What you're going to want to do is just rub everything together with your fingertips until it eventually resembles kind of like a breadcrumb sort of consistency. And you'll know when it's done when it looks like the crumble that you're used to. So it may take a little bit of work, but it's not very difficult at all, and eventually it will come together. So once you're at this kind of consistency, you're ready to start making your crumbles. Now that the fruit and the crumble itself is ready, we just need to assemble it. So what we're going to do is put the fruit in the little dishes that you want to use. In this case, I'm using the Le Creuset Petite Casserole dishes, the sunflower edition. And they're just the right size for this sort of thing, in my opinion. So we've got just enough fruit, so I managed that far better than I had anticipated I would. So that's very nice. And now that all the fruit is in place, we just need to add the crumble on top. So depending on how much crumble you actually enjoy, so how much of this like top stuff that you like, you can of course add more fruit or less fruit to get more or less of the crumble. But I think the best bit of the crumble is the fruit. So of course I add quite a lot, and you don't have to be perfect with this. You don't have to add a specific amount, just add what you think is best. And it'll cook and be delicious either way. So you just do what your heart tells you to. Now that these are ready, they're going to go into the oven at 180 degrees for about half an hour. They're quite small, so they don't take that long to cook. Of course, if you're making something a lot bigger, then it may take a little bit longer. But again, these are very small, so half an hour should do it, but I will keep an eye on them just in case they start to get a bit too burnt. So in the oven they go.